Hi, this is Steve Wagner, and this is a brief discussion of errors and biases that occur when people rate job performance. When we talk about rating errors, we're referring to unintentional rating inaccuracies. Okay, so these are tendencies that people have that are unintentional but cause them to rate performance inaccurately. One of the most common ones is leniency. This is the tendency to give ratings that are overly high. As you can see here, we have someone who has given each of the individuals, Justin B, Katie P, Nikki M, Bruno M, all 5s on every dimension. So this is an example of leniency. Now, at the other end of the spectrum is severity. This is the tendency to give ratings that are overly low. Here, all of the people rated, Dwayne W, Cheryl S, Swim C, LeBron J, all received 1s on all dimensions. Good chance that those are overly low ratings. Now, sometimes people have a tendency to overuse the midpoint of the scale. That's central tendency error. So here, Daniel L, Ann H, Jennifer L, Christoph W all received 3s on all dimensions. So there's not a differentiation between people. There's not a differentiation between dimensions. Obviously not an accurate rating. We should also talk about halo as a rating error. This is the tendency for us to use our overall impression of someone when making ratings on specific performance dimensions. So we see here that this person is rating Meg W different than Larry P and different than Marissa M, but is not differentiating between the strengths and weaknesses of Meg W. She receives all 5s, as does Tim C. Isn't it likely that these people are stronger on some aspects of performance and weaker on others? We can see here that Larry P, their overall impression is that he's average and he receives all 3s. Could it be that he's stronger and weaker on some dimensions? And again, with Marissa M, she receives all 1s. Perhaps there's some areas where she's better than a 1. So this is halo error, using your overall impression rather than evaluating each specific performance dimension. There are some additional errors that people make. For instance, attributional errors. This is a tendency for us to underestimate situational factors that may impact ratees' performance. The classic example is the fundamental attribution error. That is where we don't take into consideration the situation. We attribute a person's behavior only to their internal states. There are also personal biases, and while some of these are intentional and conscious, for most people these are unintentional, unconscious biases that they have, and yet they still have biases about age and sex and race and other personal characteristics. People need to be made aware of those so that they can check their own unintended biases. Also, there's a bias towards recent information, so we tend to give more weight to recent performance and less weight to earlier performance. So when we're talking about evaluating performance over the course of a whole year, that means earlier achievements may not count as much. And we can often see people in the weeks before their performance review staying late, working very hard, with the knowledge that that recency effect will boost their performance ratings. What can we do about reducing rating errors? Well, typically what we try to do is train performance raters. We can make them aware of the errors that they make in rater error training. We can also try and enhance their accuracy by giving them examples of good and poor performance and helping them to practice their ratings and give feedback that is accurate. It's useful if we can use more than one performance rater, and it's useful if we have a more structured, descriptive performance rating process. So if we structure the observations, if we use different rating scale formats that are more descriptive, that will help to improve the accuracy and reduce these rating errors. Now, there are also rating biases. These are intentional rating inaccuracies. And Clinton Longenecker wrote about these in an article called The Politics of Performance Appraisal. In this article, he described how he interviewed executives that had a lot of experience with rating performance, and he wanted to know what the processes were in performance appraisal. And what he found was reports from across the board in terms of these executives that there was a distortion of ratings that was acceptable, that the executives many times weren't as concerned with accuracy as they were with the social process and keeping things moving in the organization. Some of the most common reasons that people inflate ratings included the pain in the neck factor, that, hey, you have to work with these people for the next week, the next month, the next year, and it's disruptive to give accurate ratings of someone's weaknesses. It also may be used, people inflate ratings to get more bonuses and raises for the unit. Some executives described inflating ratings to promote someone out of their unit. Some used it to boost morale or to give credit to someone who really was trying but not succeeding. They called that the underdog factor. One very common reason that managers inflated ratings is they didn't want to air their dirty laundry and have people think that perhaps they were poor managers because they hadn't headed off poor performance sooner. There's also, as we talked about the recency effect, there's a desire to recognize recent improvements. And so this would be an intentional reason for inflating ratings because of recent improvements. Now, sometimes these executives described intentionally deflating ratings. So someone who is performing satisfactory but just coasting, and they want to give that person a kick in the pants. Or when pay is linked to performance ratings and there isn't budget enough to give bonuses or to show subordinates who's the boss, or to provide a justification for a future firing. Those were all reasons that managers described for lowering ratings intentionally. So what can we do about this? Well, we should try and reward supervisors who rate accurately. We should limit access to performance appraisal information so that there's not this concern about the dirty laundry factor. We should make managers aware of the benefits of accurate performance ratings as well as the detrimental effects of inaccurate performance ratings. And we should redesign organizational systems that promote intentional distortion. So if we've got a pay per performance scheme that is underfunded, we should not give people poor ratings when they deserve better ratings. We should redesign that system so it doesn't cause that kind of distortion.